Hello everyone, Anita here and welcome to week 13 of the 52-week illustration challenge. The theme for this week was movement, and I have to say I had a lot of problems with finding out a good topic to paint. Mostly it's because I really like inspiration recently. It's not exactly an art blog because I can still draw and I come up with ideas. It's more like a creativity blog. So in this case, I had a lot of ideas for the movement week, but none of them really felt exciting. And it actually, the last day, I've been pushing this painting as far as I could. And the last day I had to paint it, the inspiration came to me from a walk in the woods that I went to just maybe at around 3 in the afternoon. And immediately when I came back, I completely scrapped my other ideas and started painting this, basically. And you probably already realize what the idea is. It's the transition between winter and spring. Now, the weather in Holland is absolutely beautiful lately. We had sun for a few days and everything is starting to grow. And I really wanted to capture this in this painting. And I have kind of like two scenes going on because in the background there is still winter, while at the bottom we have the spring, which is brought by this spring spirit or goddess or just a creature of the like nature creature, nature creature. And so I'm painting almost entire picture with my cheaty gouache technique. I'm basically mixing in white gouache with most of the colors. And I'm painting everything in the same way I would paint with gouache. So I'm painting in layers, starting with the lightest. In this case, because I want to create an illusion of depth, like there's a lot of trees in the forest. And I'm not really fussing with the trees too much. They're just something really basic. Just a basic tree pattern that you would see anywhere else. I have this even on my bedroom wall, so I really like this kind of trees. And I'm adding the lightest one in the background and then going forward, adding a little bit of blue at first and then a brown to change the color gradually. Kind of think about like a snowstorm in the background, something like that. Now, I'm extremely happy with how this picture came out. For some reason, I completely forgot how to do the challenge. I've done that a lot in the previous years, where I just had something I really wanted to draw and then try to accommodate that topic to the challenge theme, and not the other way around. And for some reason, recently, I've been painting specifically for the challenge, which is a good thing, a good idea, I suppose, but it doesn't always work, especially with themes that I don't find attractive, like that's been actually the last few themes were not really attractive for me. Because I'm primarily a fantasy, I paint fantasy pictures. They all come from my fantasy, from my imagination, my dreams. And I've been kind of pushing myself to do some more not realistic, but I feel like less creative ideas lately. And so this one here with like a fairy tale theme to it was a really like a breath of fresh air for me. Like after a whole winter time, spring actually came into my creativity as well. Oh my goodness, that's so cheesy. But that's actually how it feels. I feel really energized. I feel like painting more. And I'm really looking forward to trying the acrylic gouache. I'm still saving for it. That's why I picked up my regular gouache again. And the reason I'm actually adding white gouache to watercolor is because I have a very good quality white gouache. And even that pastel washed down watercolor has better coverage and looks better than the cheaper gouache that I use a bit later. And it's fine in some areas, but in this particular one, I really wanted to have a nice, even coverage. So the creature here, it's kind of a mix between a spirit of spring and maybe a goddess of nature, kind of like Mother Nature. I really like drawing these nature-inspired pictures. Probably comes from my love of Ghibli movies. So making fantastic creatures and showing their love for nature it's something really attractive to me. And the only thing I can look about at this character is the butt. I mean, seriously, the butt of this character is so big. I really love it. I really love this kind of figure. Notice how tiny the torso is compared to the butt. And I didn't really want to cover it. I liked that shape, and I thought it was really fitting to this creature, especially that, you know, it's fur, so it's not like it's uncovered or anything. And the idea is that her veil kind of transforms the area behind her into spring, so we have little things growing slowly from the dress kind of transforms into a meadow. And I'm adding a lot of tiny details to the crown. Actually, this is really the first part I'm using gouache in, and whenever I paint with gouache, with pure gouache, I use the method where I'm starting with the darkest color and going with the lighter on top. And that's because regular gouache will reactivate when you touch it, and so the paint underneath will mix, in theory. It also depends on the pigmentation. Some colors mix much better and some of them are just not that good, like this green here. But the effect is really nice, and I really like how gouache responds to, I would say, digitizing on a picture. When I took a photo of this painting afterwards, you could clearly see which parts were painted with watercolor because they were pretty much non-existent. The color was so washed out, while the gouache was standing out really nice and crisp. And because I can't really layer watercolor on top of gouache, and I don't really want to play with all the gouache mixing because my gouache is not really that good, and yeah, let's call it the cheaty gouache is the better thing for me. So I've added shading with mostly with colored pencil. It was just easier for me to do. And I'm adding some just basic shading, nothing too fancy, because of the details and all the elements in the foreground. I didn't feel that the characters needed to be shaded and detailed even more. So I'm adding just basic shading. Now, in contrast with the background, I wanted the foreground to be really, really rich, lush, and juicy almost. And so I'm adding, I'm kind of transitioning from this kind of pastel-y green into a very, very lush, almost like an emerald green, straight from the pan. I was really, even though I like mixing recently, I still used colors straight from the pans in this painting because I wanted them to be really vibrant. And coincidentally, all the colors I wanted to use, I had, you know, readily in the pans, so that was really convenient. And I keep just adding layers, just building up that vibrance, I suppose. There is a lot of things going on over there, and I will be using gouache later on, so I wasn't really worried that much about adding color everywhere. I'm still leaving spaces, as you can see. There are flowers on the side, and I've left the spaces for them. But that was more from just being used to it rather than the need for it, because the gouache will cover it eventually anyway. And the whole field is covered in patches of clover. And because I wanted to add like the clover leaves on top with lighter color, I really wanted to build a darker green underneath. So basically, I'm kind of going forward to the darkest color. And And I wanted to add a little bit of a lighter green over here. It's kind of like a lemony green. But even though I liked the color on its own, I don't know, it just didn't fit with the idea. The color of this meadow, of this transforming meadow, I suppose, was inspired by the meadow we saw in the woods. And the grass was just so extremely fresh and lush, and it was just after the rain, the sun was shining, but the trees were still bare. So the contrast between the extremely green grass and the dark surrounding, the dark background was just incredible, and I wanted to kind of capture that green, that lush green. So that emerald green color was just perfect for what I wanted. The only thing I regret is that I didn't think through the characters in the foreground. What they're basically like flower bulbs, which are, I don't know, just personification of the plants awakened by the magic that the spring is spreading. And I really liked the characters. They had all like I made up little stories for them. I was thinking, I was imagining what they were thinking and saying when they're making all those cute faces. But the problem was that I didn't think through their colors, and they kind of blended in with the background in the end. They're still really nice, and I kind of like that they're blending in with the background because they are part of the meadow, but I don't know, I felt like I didn't really awaken them to their full potential. As for shadows here, I wanted to add additional color, and I've decided to add a little bit of blue here and there, just in a few places, because I wanted to achieve that fresh look, fresh cool green look, that the kind that you would get after rain. And so I didn't want it to be overpowering, so it's just a few little places, especially around the ivy leaves. I felt that this would be the area that's covered the most, because the rest is pretty much just the clover fields, clover patches. And here I'm adding the first gouache flowers, and I'm starting in the same way as I did the leaf crown, not really flower crown, on the spirit. Where I'm just starting with the darkest shade, and as you can see, this gouache is not exactly as opaque, and this one is straight from the tube, so this is as opaque as this cheap gouache will go, and it's not very satisfying compared to the other colors. The only color that's really satisfying from the cheap gouaches is black. Oh, the black is just amazing. But unfortunately there was no place for black in this painting. Instead I'm using a lot of greens. I'm trying to build up different shades of greens. So I'm layering a mix of gouache olive green and the same emerald green I've used in the background. And just to slowly change the colors of the ivy, even though it doesn't really look like ivy. But I really liked that combination in the end. It was pleasing to my eye. And I'm not doing any shading here either. I'm just kind of building up colors, adding some of the gouache on top, because the watercolor was not as vibrant as I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be even more vibrant, and so I'm adding just a little bit of gouache on top of it. And it mixes really nicely in the end, so I was really happy with that idea. And as you can see, I'm adding just a few layers of yellow and orange to the plants. It's not exactly like how sapling bulbs or just flower bulbs should look like. But like I said, I didn't think this through. I liked the characters, but I didn't think they're coloring through, and it shows in the end. I thought the flowers much more. I thought about the flowers much more. I knew exactly what I wanted to do with them. As you can see, I'm building up the petals from bottom up. So the second layer is of a little bit more white. I just added white to the same pink that the base is painted with, and started building petals. Now the only thing I had problem with is because the flowers are so close, it kind of creates one shape, because of course it's just the same color. I didn't mix anything for the shadows. But later on I came back with just a little bit of a colored pencil and darkened some of the areas. And the colored pencil worked perfectly on gouache. Because gouache is so dusty, it creates really good texture for the colored pencil to stick to. And as much as I didn't like the effect in the very beginning when I just started painting the flowers, I just come from the school of thought that when you add a lot of something, it starts to look better. And it's true. I actually liked it much better when it's in a group like that, rather than just one piece. And I'm adding a little bit of white detail on top just to accentuate the petals. And then I do the exact same thing, just with different colors for the clover flowers. So I'm starting with this darker gray, I suppose, and you have to always remember that gouache will not dry. It's the exact same color that you are mixing. So I always make sure to make a swatch, and in this case I knew that this gray would be a little bit darker once dry. So while I'm waiting for it to dry, I'm painting in the first layer of clover leaves. And I also didn't exactly know what I wanted to do with how I wanted to produce that effect that I was after. I wanted it to be very rich. That was my idea. I wanted it to be very rich and full of things, of all kinds of plants. So as you can see, I started with a very washed out gouache that kind of mixed it in a little bit with the background. And then on top of that, I came with another layer of more opaque gouache with the same color, just more opaque. And then after that I came in with white, just kind of creating this layered effect, and hoping that it would look like as if the plants, you know, were very full and rich. I'm building in now the petals of the flowers, and I really like the clover flowers. They're so fluffy. I always made flower crowns when I was little from the clover flowers, and this was the also very first moment when I started feeling that I'm achieving that richness that I was after. And as you can see, you don't really need a lot of shading in this painting. The lines are perfectly fine even if they're not shaded. I'm kind of convincing myself more than you because I don't know, I felt like it wasn't necessary. And I just keep adding white details. As you can see, I'm also only presenting you with only one corner of the painting to you. And that's because the whole painting was pretty much me repeating the same steps in different areas. So there was no reason to show the whole process because it would take much longer and I would have to speed it up too much. And as the very last step, I've decided to add a little bit of blue, the soft blue pastel in the background, just to create a little bit more of a fact that there is actual a storm going on, maybe a night time. I felt that with all the things going on in the foreground, the background needed a little bit more color, and the soft pastel is perfect for that. And that's pretty much it. If you would like to see this painting in more detail, you can head to my Facebook page and to the 52-week illustration page. I'm extremely happy with this painting. It's definitely one of my better ones in the recent times, so I hope you liked it as well. Please leave me a like button. Please click the like button. I don't know why I say that all the time. But please click the like button if you like this video. It helps me a lot. And maybe subscribe to see more if you haven't subscribed yet. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Bye!